Welcome to all lifelong learners. This is Pam Scott. On Mentor Loft Cafe, we've been talking about setting goals, identifying your values, and being held accountable. Today we're talking with my friend, Shawn Mahoney, who is a living, breathing example of how to do just those things. Welcome, Shawn. Before we get into your story, please tell folks what you do in your day job.
Good morning, Pam. Thank you, first off, for having me on your conversation. It's, you and I have had conversations about my journey in the past, and I feel very honored to be able to discuss it with you today on this call. But, I am a business owner, and I've had my software company for 28 years now. It's called Rockhopper Tech, and we do software development to run companies, primarily in the operational workflow, which means we write software to run your business behind the scenes. And, that's what I've been doing for the past 28 years. And I also have another company that we'll talk about a little bit, I guess, towards the end of the call. But that's a quick overview of my company. To give you a little bit of background on my personal side, I am a divorced father of two boys. I've got a 17-year-old son and a 19-year-old son, and they are the joys of my life right now, and they've been with me on my journey that we'll talk about over my life, and that's a quick overview of my family. So.
Okay, great. Well, and that's a good lead-in to what we're going to talk about today. I first met Shawn years ago in a Vistage group, which is a mastermind group, if you're not familiar with Vistage. And the first thing I learned about Shawn was his amazing story of how he lost weight and got fit. So, Shawn, let's start at the beginning. What drove you to decide to lose weight?
Well, Pam, my journey started years ago. I had battled with weight most of my life, and when I was married 24 years ago, I had gained 60 pounds before I got married, and then after marriage I gained another 60 pounds, and I was 120 pounds plus overweight, and I was that weight for almost 20 years. And, being in the software business, I sat a lot. I wasn't very mobile. I had picked up bad eating habits, late night, working on projects, and just bad habits. And it was something that I struggled with, where I'd lost some weight from time to time and then gained it back. And the normal roller coaster ride that a lot of people go on. And, back in July 4th weekend of 2010, I had made a decision that enough was enough. And at that point in time, I said, okay, I've played around with losing weight. It's now time to get ultra serious and draw a line in the sand and make a decision to change my whole life. And I think that was the first step in setting a goal to get fit and lose weight, was to decide. And that sounds simple, but it's really extremely difficult. People with goal setting don't really commit, and you've got to commit. And I think that was the first thing that really made the difference, was to make that decision. So, and the reason I made that decision is because I wasn't living the values that I had believed, or I thought I believed, in my life. I wanted to be a role model at that point in time, for my wife and my children, on how to be successful, not just monetarily, but also in your life of being fit and feeling good about yourself and being a good example. And I wasn't doing that. I was in conflict with my values. So that decision helped me with the starting point of getting dug in order to get fit.
And that brings up a great point, because you go back to your values, that you were in conflict with your values. And on Mentor Loft Cafe, we've written a lot and had some discussion about values. So the fact that you were in conflict with your values is what motivated you to do this. It's fantastic. So I'm sorry. Go ahead and resume the story.
You know, I'm looking back. I didn't realize this at the time, but not all goals are created equal. And let me kind of give you an idea what I mean by that. There are goals such as let's take a simple one that I want to become. I want to do more individual or personal learning or motivational learning. And I may say, okay, I want to go to a TED Talk, or I want to go hear Tony Robbins speak. That may be a goal. And that's a simple goal. It requires one task and me to go online, find out when the next TED Talk is, and sign up for that. That's a simple goal. Then you have more complex goals. Losing weight is a very complex goal. It comes in from all angles, from obviously exercise, which is what most people focus on, nutritional habits, mental, as far as how do you implement all that, time prioritizing, sleep or recovery. That's a very complex goal to begin with. And that's something that I want to talk about, how I handle that. But the even bigger goal wasn't just the goal of losing 120 pounds, as an example. That's my first big milestone. But in my head, I didn't want to be that story that you always hear about, that somebody loses weight, gets down to their target weight, and then they gain it all back and more in a year and a half. That was something that I did not want to go down that path. I've seen that happen. And, you know, how do you set a goal that is ongoing, that once you hit your target weight, how do you keep that going? And that was what I really focused on, more so than the first milestone and losing the 120 pounds. And you approach that completely different than you approach a one-time, hey, sign up for a TED Talk type of scenario to learn more. So I found out that I set these goals, and then I set milestones. So, as an example, my ultimate goal was to lose 120 pounds. And that's, like that saying says, how do you eat an elephant? That was too
right.
overwhelming for me to really comprehend. I had to break that down. And when you break that down into, all right, that equates to, if I broke it down to 100 pounds over a year, that's 2 pounds a week. I focus on the 2 pounds, and that's my breakdown as far as focus. But it gets more complex than that. There are a lot of things that I have to do in order to reach that 2-pound goal. There's a certain criteria that I have to follow as far as eating habits, exercise habits, prioritizing life, family, business, all those things into place, making sure that I get enough sleep, prep time for food, all this stuff. And it's life-changing in order to do that. And I found out, and I realize now, that setting those goals and having those milestones and tasks are important. And we've all run that course where we've done that, and then we don't go back and visit those, and we look back a year later in January when we set the goals the year before, and we go, I didn't reach those. I forgot about that one. So they say print it out and put it on your mirror in your bathroom, but I had to take it to a minute-by-minute change of lifestyle, and the way that I did that, I think the biggest areas that really transformed how I think about reaching goals and then continuing on with those goals on a day-to-day basis is setting those into habits. Really focused on what habits do I need to hit daily, hourly, in order to reach my, to mark off my task, mark off my milestones, and eventually hit my goal. So habits became a living, breathing part of my life. And I really established exactly what those habits are. And then you and I've discussed this, Pam, that I took it to the next level. Part of making sure that you stay on track, at least it was for me, a huge part was accountability. And
right.
the accountability for me, I've had friends that have inspired me to lose weight, and they said, "Oh, I've got a group of close friends that I meet with in my church on a weekly basis, and I put it out to them that I'm going to check in weekly." Or Weight Watchers is a great example. They have where you check in weekly to publicly announce to that group of people, here's what my weight is. And it's a great motivator. Accountability is a great motivator to keep you on track. So that Saturday night that you're out for dinner with friends, that piece of carrot cake is calling your name, and you go, "Wow, I'd love to have that bite."
Yes.
When you need to check in Monday morning with a weight check-in, and you've got to tell 10 friends, it helps really prioritize whether that cake is important for that 30 seconds of pleasure or whether it's going to keep you on track. And I decided that I had a lot of weight to lose, so I decided I needed massive accountability. And I rolled the dice, and it scared me to death. But I posted back in 2010 on my Facebook what my goal was. That within a year, I wanted to lose over 100 pounds. And I was determined to do it. And I was going to check in weekly, and I wanted my 500-plus Facebook friends to hold me accountable. And I wanted them to – oh, it's amazing. I was terrified that they were going to come out and give me a tough time if I didn't lose weight one week or, hit a plateau and couldn't drop weight. But they became my cheerleading section. And it's something that I not only did it drive me to make sure that I was on track when I had those weak moments, knowing that I would have to report back to them, they also cheered me on. When I forgot to post something, as an example, Monday morning when I said I was going to post, by 11 or 12 o'clock on Monday afternoon or late morning, I already had several people going, "Shawn, I'm really interested in what your weigh-in do. How'd you do this week? Give me some feedback. We are cheering for you." And they really were my cheerleading section in a positive, inspiring accountability situation compared to a negative driving force. So
I've always thought that was the coolest thing about what you decided to do, because as you explained, it was a way bigger task than, set of goals than you ever anticipated. But the fact that you were willing to be vulnerable and have an accountability group of 500 people, most of us have trouble being accountable to a spouse or a parent or a kid. And here you've got 500 people that are following your journey with you. I've always admired you for that.
Well, I didn't realize it at the time, but it's nice having a spouse being an accountability partner, but it's very difficult having a spouse being an accountability partner because you're so close to the spouse and your children. You're very sensitive to their feedback, and you'll take some constructive criticism or negative constructive criticism much easier from a friend than you will from a spouse or a family member. So
sure,
at least in losing weight, it's a very sensitive subject that people have a lot of guilt with. I know I did. I felt guilty when I fell off track. But I've now since learned that we all, even on my journey with the weight loss and the almost 7 years since I've lost the weight and I've kept it off, that you fall off of your habits, and the key to success on that is to get back on them, get back on the habits. But that accountability was a huge part of keeping me on track on that first initial year.
I think it's awesome. I mean, I just love your story. And if there was one thing that you would do differently, and we'll sort of wrap it up with this comment or with this question, is if there was one thing you would do differently, maybe that you've learned over the course of the last 7 years, what would that be?
Great question. As I mentioned, that the key to success were habits and accountability. I know now that habits are interesting. Habits are easier to put into place when you replace a habit instead of try to get rid of the habit. So I'll give you an example. I used to go down in my theater room, and I used to, at the end of the day, and I used to turn on a movie, sit in my chair, have my kids come join me, and then I'd start, eating what I call zombie eating, where I would eat popcorn and eat chips and open up a bottle of wine, and I would just mindlessly, not even being hungry, would just go through that mode, that habitual process of just eating just because I was in my theater room. I eventually, to break that habit, just quit going down in the theater room for almost a year to keep me from doing that. And I know now that there was an easier way to solve that problem. I could have replaced that habit instead of trying to just remove the habit. So from a psychology perspective, it's a known fact that when you have a habit and you want to change that habit, it's easier to replace it than just to get rid of it. So what I ended up doing when I started going back down in the theater room almost a year later, I got all the bad food out of there, of course, and I really didn't use that area as a place for me to eat, so I didn't get into that zombie eating just because I'm in front of a screen or TV. I replaced that with dumbbells sitting right by my chair, light dumbbells, that when I sat down, I would pick up and start doing some, curls, some tricep burnouts, all different types of exercises, and food didn't even come into place. So to answer your question, I would have replaced a habit instead of just tried to focus on getting rid of a bad habit. Replacing habits are much, much easier.
Well, that is such great advice. And, I mean, I've watched you over the years, how you stick to these healthy habits that you've developed. And I know we could talk about this a lot more. I would encourage you all. Shawn's going to tell us how to follow up with him before we get off the phone today, but I would encourage you all to read more about Shawn's story. So, Shawn, thank you for joining us today. Mentor Loft Cafe is dedicated to helping lifelong learners fulfill their quest. You can join us at Mentor Loft Cafe, our private Facebook group, where you can learn and not be subjected to the riffraff on the Internet. Shawn, do you want to have any closing words here for our listeners before we get off the phone?
Absolutely. A couple of things. My software company that we do the workflow software to run companies is Rockhopper Tech, and that's ROCKHOPPER.TECH. If you want to learn more about our software and IT services. But since then, Pam, you know that I've also opened up a fitness wellness application, which is built for corporate wellness. And that website, if you want to find out more about that, is FIT, F-I-T, the number 2, W-I-N, Fit to Win, wellness.com. And on that, you can see pictures of my before and after pictures and my story. But one thing that I wanted to mention really quick, that the blessing with my success story on the weight loss and continued keeping in shape is that I was able to touch a lot of other people's lives in my accountability partners. I had people reaching out to me a year or so later stating that watching my journey inspired them to lose 90, 100 pounds. And that was the blessing I never dreamed of when I started my personal journey. And I wrote a book about it, and there's a link to it on the Fit to Win Wellness website. So if you want to learn more about that or download the book, please feel free. And my contact information is on both websites. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. And Pam, thank you for having me on your call. It's been great. It's been great, Shawn.
One of the things I did want to share real quickly is that you had a post on your Facebook Fit to Win Wellness page that says you can't expect to look like $1 million if you eat from the dollar menu. I just
Isn't that
found
a great
that. That is it's a horrible thing, Shawn. But so his website again is fit, the number 2, win, wellness.com. Thanks, Shawn. You learners need to jump on the website and learn more about Shawn and how he has put goal setting and values and accountability to work for him to make lifelong changes. So I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Shawn. You can reach me, Pam Scott, at pam@mentorloft.com. Please join us online at www.mentorloftcafe.com. Until next time, keep learning. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.